I hit the streets of Broward County today to film our Jumbotron truck and to talk to Broward County residents and voters about their opinion of Sheriff Scott Israel. Today, Friday, March 2nd, we are really ramping up and amping up the volume of our www.firescottisrael.com campaign in Broward County, Florida. We want Florida Governor Rick Scott to remove Broward County Sheriff Scott Israel for incompetence, malfeasance, dereliction of duty, and an inability to take responsibility, an inability to be accountable, and a complete lack of leadership. He is a horrible guy and an even worse chief law enforcement officer. So we here at The Rebel have hired a Jumbotron truck where we are listing all of Scott Israel's scandals while he's been in office. There are calls to action to remove Scott Israel from office. Fire Scott Israel. This truck will be parked in front of the Broward County Sheriff's Office and then be driving down Broward Boulevard into downtown Fort Lauderdale. Broward Boulevard is the main road on which the headquarters of the Broward County Sheriff's Office sits, and it's a straight shot east to downtown Fort Lauderdale. We're going to be sending that truck from the Broward County Sheriff's Office through downtown Fort Lauderdale and back again, over and over again, so that residents of Broward County can get engaged. People here in Broward County, where my studio is located, are infuriated, and they want Sheriff Scott Israel removed today. He won't resign. He's too arrogant. So we're going to send our truck through downtown Fort Lauderdale, sponsored by The Rebel. We're going to get as many eyeballs as we can. We're going to list Scott Israel scandals, and our call to action is www.firescottisrael.com. Sign our petition, a petition I will hand deliver to the Broward County Commission, Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, and Florida Governor Rick Scott. www.firescottisrael.com. Please go there and sign. Thanks very much. Our Jumbotron truck calling for the firing of Scott Israel, Sheriff Scott Israel of Broward County, is passing by me right now. He's going to be out here all day, back and forth in front of the Sheriff's Office headquarters, which you can see behind me, and then up and down Las Olas Boulevard, the main drag that runs right through the heart of downtown Fort Lauderdale. We're going to be doing interviews with residents of Broward counties to see what they think about our campaign to have Scott Israel removed by Florida Governor Rick Scott. But I can tell you, just the few people I've spoken to here on the street in front of the Broward County Sheriff's Office, people driving by in their cars who didn't have time to be interviewed, well, they were overwhelmingly supportive. In fact, I haven't had one, not a single solitary negative response. Again, the response has been overwhelmingly positive to fire Scott Israel, to have him removed by Florida Governor Rick Scott. Ryan, what's your opinion on the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, at the request of Governor Rick Scott, launching an investigation into Broward County Sheriff Scott Israel's handling of the massacre at Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it needs to be looked into a little bit, and I think he's doing his due diligence, and whatever the investigation entails, I think whatever comes out of it is, I'll trust the opinion of the government.
So if the investigation resulted in findings of malfeasance, incompetence, things of that nature against the sheriff, and the governor removed him, you'd support that decision?
Sure, yeah. I think they are in their position for a reason, and I'll trust their decision.
Thank you very much. Harold, what do you think about the governor, the attorney general, and now the Florida Department of Law Enforcement all calling for and acting on an investigation into Sheriff Scott Israel?
Yeah, I think it's good to investigate why they're going too slow and not on time to prevent the massacre over there.
So you support what the governor, the attorney general, and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement are doing?
Yes, yeah, yes, I do, because the reaction was too slow, and the guy has time to kill all these people,
So the reports about the deputies waiting outside, that's what bothers you most? That's what you'd like to see investigated to find out why that happened?
Yes, not only that too. All the other officers take time to get there, and no solution. After they get there, everybody was killed.
It's a tragic incident.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you very, very much for your time. Much appreciated.
You're welcome.
What do you think right now about the state launching an investigation into the sheriff? Are you for it? Are you against it? As a Broward County resident, what are your feelings?
Well, I guess they maybe have to investigate it because it's a public matter, but I feel like it maybe makes it a little tougher on those guys to do their job if they feel like they could get so much backlash.
Well, let me ask you, most people are very supportive of the men and women of the Broward County Sheriff's Office. They feel the deputies do a great job day in and day out. This investigation is solely focused on the top man, Sheriff Scott Israel, who has failed to be accountable for what happened in Parkland. Do you think that's a justifiable investigation?
Well, you have to investigate. I mean, it's a public matter, right? And so we have to hold everybody accountable. And if there was wrongdoing, I guess an investigation would uncover it. But yes, any public matter you should investigate.
What's most important to residents of Broward County, voters of Broward County like TJ, is accountability. And they just don't feel that Sheriff Scott Israel has been accountable after the deaths of 17 innocents in Parkland, Florida, at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School.
My opinion is they need to do a thorough investigation to determine what happened.
Now, if the findings reveal wrongdoing, and
I don't want to be part of that. Nothing.
well, there you have it. Some people here are very intimidated by Sheriff Scott Israel. In fact, that's been the norm. When I go to ask people questions about whether or not he should be fired, they tend to do that. They appear very afraid. So I don't know if Scott Israel has been intimidating people if they're told not to speak, but very, very unusual that I've seen citizens in the United States of America this intimidated by someone elected to serve them. Shortly after I wrapped shooting today, in front of that building on Las Olas Boulevard in downtown Fort Lauderdale that houses county offices, the building out of which people came, county employees, to ask me questions, all kinds of questions. Why was I there? What was I doing? Who was I asking questions about? The same building out of which came the two women who snapped cell phone photos of me and clearly were sending them to someone. I presume Sheriff Scott Israel or allies of his. The building manager called the Fort Lauderdale Police Department on me. Now, it's very important to note that about 15 to 20 minutes prior to that, security came out of the building and informed me that our tripod was touching their property line. I didn't realize that. It looked like it was the sidewalk, and within a few seconds, I had moved the tripod well away from their property line onto a public area of the sidewalk. There was no reason for the police to be called. Fort Lauderdale police responded, and they were absolutely outstanding, very professional, and were essentially laughing at the incident. They asked me what happened, and I explained, and they basically wanted to know why they were even there. I said, I don't know. And then they said the property manager, and I presume some people who work for the county inside that building, said they didn't want the exterior of the building to be part of our report, to which I told the police, with all due respect, the lens of the camera catches what it catches, and our tripod was in a legal place on a public sidewalk, and if the camera so happened to catch the facade of their building, so be it. The police agreed with me. We shook hands. I wished them to be safe for the rest of the day. They wished us good luck, and we all went on our way. But isn't it telling that when we're trying to do an expose on one of the most embattled and incompetent sheriffs in the United States, on the heels of me reporting and tweeting about the Broward County School Superintendent, Robert Runcie, who won't give us any comment on why $800 million of a 2014 bond appropriation hasn't yet been spent on school upgrades, $9.7 million of which was to go to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland to fortify, to harden that school. Well, isn't it peculiar that when we're outside of a building that houses Broward County government offices and we're in a perfectly legal place, exercising our First Amendment rights as media, in a perfectly legal place that even the Fort Lauderdale police acknowledge is perfectly legal? They came, we shook hands, they left. Isn't it telling that Broward County employees called those same police officers on us? It's even more telling that the Broward Sheriff's Office didn't come. And they could have. The city of Fort Lauderdale sits in Broward County. The Sheriff's Office has jurisdiction in the county and in the city. But they didn't come. Now, do I know for a fact that the people who called the police on us were cronies of Scott Israel? No. But why else would the police have been called? We were in a legal place. We were more than polite. We were often joking around and engaging with passersby. Not to mention, this is essentially the neighborhood I live in. Many of the people walking by on the street I know personally. I see out at happy hour. We eat at the same restaurants. We're shaking hands. We're joking around. Many are politically like-minded, many others aren't. There was nothing about the situation that warranted a call from the police. Even the police thought so when they showed up. Again, I want to reiterate how outstanding the Fort Lauderdale police were. Professional, polite, friendly, and realized they were wasting their time when they should have been out there looking for actual criminals. But it's very, very telling that this only happened. We were in multiple locations today, including outside of the Broward County Sheriff's Office on Fort Lauderdale Beach, in 2 shopping centers, but only when we were outside of offices that house entrenched Democratic government bureaucrats, many appointees by the far-left Broward County administrations, multiple administrations, the schools, the superintendent of school, Broward Schools, the cronies around Democrat Sheriff Scott Israel and the Sheriff's Department, and all of the other departments that tend to have Democratic appointees. It was only when we were outside of that building that we had any issue with the police. In fact, while on Fort Lauderdale Beach, which was incredibly crowded vehicular pedestrian traffic, and I had our tripod on one of the busiest corners, A1A and Las Olas Boulevard, several police officers drove by and waved. They had no issue. Only when I got outside of the county building that houses many, many Democrats loyal to Scott Israel were the police called on us for no reason whatsoever, a finding made by the police themselves. We're going to stay on this story. We're going to stay on Scott Israel. So please go to www.firescottisrael.com and sign our petition so I can personally deliver that petition to Governor Rick Scott and show him that it isn't only politicians. It isn't only our Attorney General Pam Bondi. It isn't only Republicans in Florida who want Scott Israel removed from office. It's everyone. Everyone can see his incompetence. Everyone can see his lack of accountability. And we're also going to be following up on that missing $800 million that was supposed to have gone to improvements in Broward schools.